Today has had all the technical difficulties, but we're all right. We're gonna make it. Welcome to Shakacast 2. This week, focusing on with training, just making sure that I'm not thinking about how much I've done, but how much I can do. You know, um, I put the message out there to the striking coach. I just let him know, I wanna fight. I wanna fight with everything I can. And first question to me was the first question any coach should ask if somebody says they want to fight. He said, "How many miles you run?" I said, "I don't know." His response was 3 miles a day. You need to run 3 miles 3 times a week, and then come back and talk to me. And to me, I had my ego hit a little bit. Because I've been training so hard, I've been working so hard, I've been doing so much. But at the end of the day, on top of everything that I've done, first of all, running is going to make me better. Second, why is there a problem? Why am I upset, about someone asking me to do something? I understand I've done everything that I've done so far. But it's not a matter of what I've done. It's a matter of what I'm willing to do to have what I want and get to where I want to be. And where I want to be as a professional fighter. So I'm going to do every damn thing my coach says so that I get every opportunity I can to be a professional fighter. That's it. Which kind of rolls right into my topic of the week, which is recognizing where you are and recognizing how to get where you want to be. Okay? How to get to where you want to be always starts with a goal. What do you want your end goal to be? And like I said, my end goal that I want is to be a professional fighter. Okay. And for you, if you're watching this, I want you to kind of look at this from your point of view. What do you want your end goal to be? I want to be a professional fighter because I want to make money doing what I love. I love fighting. It's my favorite damn thing in the world. What's your thing? You like to cut hair? You know what I mean? You like to teach kids? Or you're a rapper? What do you like to do? Okay? The first thing that you have to do to start your goal is recognize what your goal is. The second thing you have to do is practice your goal religiously. Allow yourself to become obsessed with what you love, because if you're going to do something, you have to be good at it if you want people to pay you to do it. It's simple math. That second step and the third step kind of blend into each other. So you recognize your goal, you're practicing your goal religiously. Then you need to find people who have similar goals and align yourselves with them. Hey, by this point, you've gotten to the phase of maintenance, meaning that your goal has become a part of your regular life. Once you reach that point where you are using people who have the same goal as you to help yourself become better at your goal, that goal is in the maintenance stage. That's something you're doing consistently. Fair. The third thing you need to do after you get into the maintenance stage of your goal is constantly take note of where you are on your path of achieving your goal and recognize the things that can keep you from getting there. So you want to be the best zookeeper in the world, okay? You're going to college, you're getting a degree, you're getting your bachelor's as a veterinarian or in zoology, whatever it is, and you're starting to surround yourself with the right people. You work for a zoo, cleaning lion shit out of the pen or whatever, and you're growing. Every day you're focused on doing what you love to do, and you're surrounding yourself with people who love the same thing that you love with the same goal. You're on the right track. You gotta recognize the things that can keep you from achieving your full goal. And there's a story between there's a story within the UFC between Dana White and Chris Cyborg where they had a falling out, and I think this is a great opportunity for us to take a closer look at one of those things. After we meet those first 3 stages, right? Find out what you want your goal to be, practice your goal religiously, become obsessed with it, and then finding a group of people to help you get better at your goal. When you get into that maintenance stage, you know, Chris Cyborg was there in that maintenance stage, been there for a long time, recognized worldwide as one of the greatest female fighters in history. And I have to go from what she says. I don't know Chris. You know what I mean? I'm a big fan. I've been a big fan for a long time. I've been a fan of Chris Cyborg since Invicta. So that's probably 2000, a little after 2014, I think. So she's already there. She's in the maintenance stage. And then she reaches this obstacle in Amanda Nunes. And when she reached that obstacle in Amanda Nunes, she had that thing that hit her. You know what I mean? She got punched and she reacted to getting punched by trying to throw a whole bunch of punches, which led to her getting knocked out. I just want to have you know that any fighter on the way to becoming the greatest of all time has been knocked out before. Even if you didn't get knocked out and fall on your tail, twitch on the ground, all that stuff, you've been knocked out on your feet before. Everybody been there if you're going to be the greatest of all time. You know, every hairstylist has given a bad cut once. Happens. But the difference between becoming the greatest of all time, doing what you love, achieving that end goal, and not, is how you react to the failure that faces you and how you circumvent it to continue to strive towards your end goal, whatever that is for you. So in getting that loss from Amanda Nunes, Chris Cyborg, the first thing she did was intelligent in defending herself. You know, she did not want an immediate rematch. When you get knocked out, you do not want an immediate rematch. If you do a bad haircut, you know you did a bad haircut. Sometimes people don't want to do another haircut immediately, right? If you try to get a new PR in the gym, you know, and you try to throw some extra 5 pounds on there, you don't make it the first time. You don't automatically re-rack the same weight, try it again immediately, you know, unless you know that there's something more that you could have done, okay? But if you fully failed, you're not gonna immediately try to do it again. You're gonna go back to the drawing board, redevelop, and try to hit that PR again. I get it. But here's the thing. After that loss, Dana White said that Chris Cyborg didn't want to fight Amanda Nunes. He said that Cyborg was scared, that Chris Cyborg was scared to fight Amanda Nunes, so she was making excuses and all this other stuff. Cyborg takes it personally. And in turn, she replays a tape from 2014 in which Dana White said that Chris Cyborg looked like Wanderlei Silva. Here's my problem with that. It's 2019. The internet has slash and burn mentality. If there's one thing that social justice warriors can latch on to, they try to spark it out of control and get that person removed from that position of power. So what Chris Cyborg did in replaying that stuff that happened in 2014 is she said, hey, boss, hey, person who sets up my contracts, hey, person who's in charge of making sure I get paid, hey, person who developed this industry for the past Lord knows how many years, hey, person who's got all these different connections that I could benefit from. Because you said this one thing about me that I believe to be a lie, I want you to not just lose your job, but lose all the possibility of continuing to do the great work that you've done for this company so far. Mind you, the UFC is going worldwide right now. So everybody in the UFC, if you become undeniable, right? If you become an undeniable fighter, right? Like that, if somebody looks at your face and says, hey, that guy beats the shit out of people, you're a star because your company is a worldwide station. Okay? UFC setting up institutes in China, setting up institutes in Africa, setting up institutes in Mexico. So if you're a star in the UFC, you are a star, period. Dana White did that. So she said, I want him to lose all of those things that he has done so far. Here's how you got to look at it from the perspective of the person who gets to be that obstacle in your way. Okay? That person who is your obstacle has no intention of making your life harder. That person who is your obstacle usually does not care about you specifically. If you are behind someone who has the capacity to be an obstacle for you, the very first thing that you have to recognize is that they don't wake up every day trying to find out how to be an obstacle for you. And if they do, you are fighting with the wrong people. You got the wrong crew. Okay? So because if somebody's taking their every waking moment, they wake up in the morning and they say, how can I screw this person over? You need to find somewhere else to go. Mind you, Chris joined the UFC after Dana White said this stuff. This stuff happened in 2014. It's 2019 now, and she's bringing it back up. But I digress. The same situation that happened between, as a result, because of the disrespect, when Chris Cyborg put that stuff out there with Dana White saying those things again, not to mention the fact that she recorded without him knowing a conversation between the two of them where her team doctored the end of the conversation subtext to make it seem as though he said that he was a liar. Just ridiculous. She did take responsibility for her team, and I more than respect Cyborg for that. I got nothing but respect for Cyborg. But at the end of the day, the same thing applies to us, not superstar fighters. Every time we get pulled over, every time we get pulled over by a cop, we have a decision to make. Are we going to act a fool and lose our minds? Are we going to say that the cop is racist, sexist? Are we going to say that the cop is homophobic, looking at him immediately? Or are we going to understand that we got shit to do? You know what I mean? If you disrespect a cop and that cop puts you in cuffs and you end up in prison, you can't feed your kids. You can't pay your bills. It's harder for you to get a job. You got a record now. You know what I mean? And it to me, as a member of my generation, it's so frustrating because over and over again, I see people come across simple situations where we just have to swallow our ego and pride to continue to strive for that end goal, whatever you may want it to be. It's so frustrating. I think about when I see talent, when I see talent, and it's just like, there are so many people who are not in the UFC who could be called the greatest of all time. This is something that George St. Pierre talked about. There are, I'll say hundreds. There are hundreds of people not in the UFC who could be the greatest and will never have the opportunity to call themselves that because they don't recognize the position and opportunity that they're being provided simply by someone that they may not like or agree with. Now, don't get me wrong. There are some things that are unacceptable, right? Like there are I'll talk specifically to fighting. You know, back in the '60s and '70s. I don't know what it's like now. I just heard stories from that time. A lot of boxers would get in lieu with like mob bosses and stuff like that to try to reach their end goal of having the opportunity to be in the greatest of all time. Fair enough, it happens. That's just not my style. For me, when I find out that people are getting hurt or something's being done wrong to people, that's when I'm out. You know, my integrity is challenged. But there's things that you may have to do that just involve you swallowing your pride that get in the way of you actually getting to your end goal. And every time that comes up, if you're listening to this Shakacast, I want you to think to yourself, what is my end goal? And how will my actions in this instance keep me from getting to that goal? Let's go back to Dana White and Chris Cyborg. Chris wants to be the greatest fighter of all time. For fighting, the greatest fighters of all time are in the UFC, period. I don't care what anybody says. If you want to see the greatest fighters in the world, you watch the UFC. So Ben Askren, for example. Ben Askren was never recognized as one of the greatest welterweights to ever live. 19-0. Never been beaten before. Comes in the UFC, almost gets beat in his first fight, and then gets damn near murdered in his second. It's the UFC. So no one ever called Ben Askren the greatest fighter of all time. And then when he had the opportunity to fight for that true title of being the greatest, couldn't shine. So he doesn't get that recognition. He doesn't get that star. Chris was there. You know, she was on her way to becoming double champ. She was the 135 champion. She had been the 145 champion at one point. And then there she comes to this wall of Amanda Nunes. And then she feels disrespected and she decides to lash out at her boss. You can't lash out at anybody anymore. It's 2019, you know? And the other thing is, if you're a corporation, as a fighter is, you should carry yourself. If you're a corporation, you can't be lashing out at anybody. Because you got to recognize, hey, after I'm not taking this path to reach my end goal, I got to take a different path, which means I need new connections, which means whoever I need to go find next is going to see how I'm reacting now, and they're going to make a decision. They're going to say, is this person going to react the same way with me as they did with this individual before? Because I've seen him on TV pleading and saying that he had nothing to do with the way that she was saying that he was doing this thing. If you watch the interviews, you'll know what I'm talking about. Or do I want to take a chance and just give this person the opportunity to become the best that I can give them? That's what everybody who you work for after you leave that original situation has to think to themselves. You know? It's just a major point of frustration to me. Because I feel like when we hit that wall, talking about my generation specifically, you know, we tend to lash out in different types of ways. We tend to call people racist. You know, we tend to say that, you know, the white man held us back, or we tend to say that, you know, my boss just didn't recognize me because he recognized somebody else somebody else more, you know. And one of the things that I learned about from Jocko Willing, is extreme ownership. That means that you are completely responsible for the end result of whatever you're trying to do. And if you let your actions, your response to somebody, put you in a position where somebody questions whether or not they want to be able to work with you in the future, you're shooting yourself in the foot. Let me wrap things up. How could things have been handled better? What can we do when we feel disrespected? Because at the end of the day, we do live by an honor code, right? Most people live by an honor code. Most people are not going to let somebody cross a certain line, right? The first thing that I would say that you would want to do if you feel that disrespect, or if you feel like there's somebody who's in your way, keeping you from getting to your goal, or who you may not want to work with and you trying to get to your goal, is ask yourself, what benefit can I get from this person? What benefit? Okay. If you don't feel like you can get a lot of benefit from this person, why are you continuing to work for them? You get past the first question. They are a benefit to you. Fantastic. Were you truly disrespected, or is this simply a result of your ego getting out of control? It's the second step. Were you truly disrespected maliciously, or is this your ego getting out of control? It's your ego getting out of control. Okay, you can move on to the next step. You weren't disrespected. You gotta let it go. Those are your options. So you find out that you really were disrespected. You got to make a decision at that point. Is this a disrespect that I'm going to tolerate, or is this something that I'm going to move on from? Is this something that matters enough for me to set myself back and start working on this goal again with someone new? Is that how much I'm hurt by this? Or is this a situation where, maybe I can get over it? If you feel like this is a situation that's got you so disrespected and so messed up that you feel like you need to work with someone new, that's it. Work with someone new. You ain't got to talk smack. You ain't got to say anything about how they operate, until you get into the position to where they can have no influence on your future. There's no reason to try to tear that person down, because at the end of the day, if they had the door, right, they had their hand on the doorknob that gave you the opportunity to be able to fight to get closer to your end goal, then chances are they continue to have that opportunity for others, which would mean that chances are they are going to have the last word. And that's what happened with Dana and Cyborg. Dana's on TV telling his side of the story. Cyborg's doing the best she can on Instagram. He's a billionaire. She's a millionaire. 1,000 millions makes a billion, just so you know. So they're going to have the last word. At the end of the day, that person who's in your way will continue to be successful because they got the connections that made you go to them in the first place. So where do you want to be? Where do your goals lie? Are you so disrespected that you don't want to work with this person anymore? If you are, move on and don't say anything about it. Because there's something special about someone who has recognized that they have achieved their goal. There's something special that happens. And that special thing that happens is that they don't freaking care. When someone has a clear path to their goal and understands that they can circumvent and get around any obstacle to it, you find these people you don't hear these people crying. You don't hear these people upset. There's a line in one of Rick Ross's CDs where he talked about how DJ Khaled got screwed over. I didn't ever hear about that outside of the CD. I didn't know. I'm sure Beyonce and Jay-Z fight all the time. I mean, they've been married for Lord knows how long. I don't hear about it. To both ends. In the first situation that I talked about with DJ Khaled, he's no longer working with that person. With the situation with Jay-Z and Beyonce, obviously they're still together. But at the end of the day, I don't know about how either of those situations resolve, because at the end of the day, they handled those situations quietly. Those people know where their end goal is. They know how to continue to get toward their end goal. And if somebody's in their way, fuck them. It's your life. Take it by the wings. Go where you want to go. Don't let your ego or anyone else, anything else, get in the way. And if you feel disrespected, if you feel like somebody's truly trying to get in your way, 100%, they want to stop you. Smile, wave, and keep going. Because to you, your goal should be more important than anything else going on in your world. First and foremost, your ego. See you guys next week.